right there. Alright, verse 4, where we just read, and his brightness, remember last week we talked about his brightness at his coming, and this brightness was as the light. He had horns coming out of his hand, and there was the hiding of his power in his hand. Okay, you remember in the book of the Revelation of Jesus Christ, where Christ, John talks about him in his brightness, and how he has, in his hand the stars there that represent the churches. Okay, verse 5, before him, okay, that has that power in his hand, went the pestilence, okay, and burning coals went forth at his feet. That, again, that is us. We talked about that last week, how as we travel following our Lord up the King's Highway from Mount Sinai, okay, it says that before us it's like the Garden of Eden, and behind us everything is laid waste and burnt. We leave destruction, total destruction behind us. Okay, verses 11 through 14 there in Habakkuk 3. The sun and the moon stood still in their habitation. At the light of thine arrows they went, and at the shining of thy glittering spear. Thou didst march through the land in indignation. Thou didst thresh the heathen in anger. Thou wentest forth for the salvation of thy people, even for salvation with thine anointed. Thou woundest the head out of the house of the wicked by discovering the foundation unto the neck. Selah. Okay, thou didst strike through with thy staves the head of his villages. They came out as a whirlwind to scatter me. Their rejoicing was as to devour the poor secretly. Okay, none of that happened in the book of Exodus. Okay? None of that happened there. That Selah, again, the indication to us, we're talking about a second Advent event that is going on here. And we can see through here, verse 12, indignation, anger, threshing of the heathen. Again, none of that happened then. It's going to happen in the future. Okay? Verse 13, here, thou wentest forth for the salvation of thy people. Okay? Who's the salvation of his people? The nation of Israel is who he's coming to save in the wilderness. Not coming to save us. We're the ones that we're the Calvary. We're with him going to save Israel that's hiding in the wilderness from the beast. Okay? Again, verse 13, where he goes on, talks about, thou woundest the head out of the house of the wicked. That's the beast. Right there, by discovering the foundation unto the neck. Okay? Here referring to the head. Okay, the head, okay, we've got the unholy trinity here. Okay, which is Satan, the beast, and the false prophet. Again, the wound to the head. We're talking about Satan, okay, the anointed, according to Jesus Christ. We are the anointed with Christ. Verse 14, okay, is actually Israel speaking here. Thou didst strike through with his staves the head of his villages. They, talking about the forces of the Antichrist, came out as a whirlwind to scatter me. This is Israel talking. Their rejoicing was as to devour the poor secretly. And it goes on to verse 15 and says, thou didst walk through the sea with thine horses, through the heap of great waters. This is literal. This is literal. It's a reference to us when we are coming with Christ out of heaven and we travel through the glassy sea. We travel through the deep on our horses coming back to the earth. So again, all these things here that we're given, they are all prophetic. Okay, that the Selah there, and the fact that none of these things occurred at the first Advent, none of these things occurred back in Exodus. it's all prophetic. We know that what we're looking at is something that is yet to come, and this is that path that we are going to follow. Now, Lord willing, next week we'll have one more lesson on all of this, and we'll talk about what's going to occur after we've gotten up through here and we come through this area again. This area is where the lake of fire is going to be on the earth during the millennial reign, and what occurs in here at the last part of that. Any questions? Any comments? Anything anybody needs me to repeat for them? All right then. We will